The Zerath Empire had ruled the stars for thousands of years. Their fleet stretched across hundreds of worlds. Their technology was unmatched, and their arrogance was even greater. On the capital world, Zerath Prime, life moved with cold perfection. The alien nobles spoke of power and order, of how no species dared to stand against them anymore. But that piece of pride was about to break from her tall crystal palace. Princess Lyra stood before a massive viewing window. Her silver eyes gazed at the endless dark of space. She had always found it peaceful, beautiful even, until today, when something strange appeared on the royal scanners, an unidentified signal. "Princess," reported Commander Varen, bowing low. "It's not from any known system." Lyra turned to him. "A lost trader, perhaps?" "No, Your Highness," Varen replied, his voice uncertain. "It's large, and moving fast." A silence fell across the command hall. The Empire was not used to surprises. Every ship, every traveler, every world was under their control, yet the signal came from outside known space. The council was gathered within the hour. The Emperor himself laughed when he heard. "Some ghost ship from a dying world," he said, his voice echoing through the grand chamber. "Send a patrol. Remind them who rules the stars." Everyone laughed. Everyone except Lyra. She could not explain it. But something about that signal made her uneasy. As the patrol ships left orbit, the skies above Zerath Prime shimmered with light. The alien sun dimmed for a heartbeat, and then everything went dark. The laughter stopped. The palace shook, the air filled with static and the scent of ozone. From the darkness above, a massive shadow appeared. It moved slowly, silently, like a mountain drifting through space. It was not debris, not pirates, not anything they had seen before. It was a ship, black as the void, smooth and angular, bearing no Empire markings. Lyra's voice trembled. "What is that?" Commander Varen whispered, "Your Highness." "It's not one of ours." Alarms echoed across the city. The orbital stations tried to scan it, but their systems froze. The Empire's satellites glitched and burned out, and then, on every screen, in every home, in every ship across the Empire, a human face appeared. A man in dark armor, scarred and calm, his eyes sharp as a blade. Behind him, the faint hum of a warship pulsed like a heartbeat. "This is Captain Darius Cole of the Terran Vanguard," he said, his voice cold and steady. "To the rulers of the Zerath Empire, your time of slavery ends today." The message ended. Silence followed. Across the council chambers, confusion turned to anger. "Terran?" one senator hissed. "Humans? That primitive race? They were destroyed centuries ago," another laughed. This must be a trick. But Lyra stood frozen, her mind spinning. She remembered the old stories told in secret by her tutors. Tales of the humans who once stood beside the Empire, then vanished after defying their masters. Some said the Empire had wiped them out. Others whispered they had fled beyond the edge of the stars. Now one of them had returned. The generals ordered the fleets to engage. Hundreds of ships moved to surround the lone human vessel. But the moment they entered range, their targeting systems shut down. Energy readings spiked off every chart. The human ship shimmered, its surface glowing with strange runes. "What kind of technology is that?" Varen shouted. "It's reading impossible levels." The first Zerath cruiser fired. The plasma bolt struck the human vessel, only to vanish. The energy was absorbed like water into sand. Then the Vanguard replied. A single pulse of blue light erupted from its front hull. It crossed the void in an instant. The cruiser exploded without sound, turning into dust and flame. The command room shook as shockwaves rippled through orbit. Lyra fell to her knees, her heart racing. One ship, one man, one human. The Zerath generals screamed through comms. "All units attack! Destroy it!" But nothing worked. Their weapons misfired. Their engines failed, ships collided. Drifting helplessly through space, the Vanguard moved forward slowly, unstoppable. Then a voice came again, calm and merciless. "Return what you stole from humanity," Darius said. "Free the worlds you chained, or face extinction." His ship released a swarm of drones, each glowing with blue energy. They flew silently across the battlefield, attaching to enemy ships one by one. The alien vessels powered down, dead in space on Zerath Prime. People watched in horror and awe. Children cried, soldiers froze, nobles prayed. The Emperor roared in fury, "Fire everything!" But nothing happened. The command consoles sparked. The palace trembled, and then every communication line went silent, replaced by a single sound, the slow, steady pulse of a human heartbeat. Princess Lyra's breath caught in her throat. "He's not here to conquer," she whispered. "He's here to judge." Outside, the human ship hovered motionless above the capital. The clouds burned gold around it, casting a light like dawn over the alien city. Lyra felt something she had never felt before. Not fear of her father, not pride in her empire, but something deeper, colder. Humanity had returned, and the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. The part ends as Lyra stands before the window, eyes wide with terror and wonder, her trembling voice barely a whisper. One human dares to challenge an empire. The sky above Zerath Prime remained covered by the human ship, its shadow stretching for miles. The alien world that once felt untouchable now trembled under one vessel. The great cities were silent, the fleets disabled, and fear spread faster than fire. In the royal command hall, the Emperor raged. His voice shook the walls. "One ship dares to defy us," he shouted. "Find him, destroy him, erase his kind from the stars." But no one moved. No one spoke. Their systems were still blind, their weapons silent. Their pride had been broken by a single signal from the void. Princess Lyra stood behind her father, her eyes fixed on the dark shape above their world. She could feel something strange, curiosity, fear, and a pull she couldn't explain. She turned to the council. "Let me speak with him," she said softly. The room froze. "Absolutely not," the Emperor barked. "You will not speak with that creature." Lyra raised her chin. "Father, our weapons have failed. Our fleets are useless. He hasn't destroyed us yet." "That means he wants to talk," the Emperor glared, his silver eyes burning with fury. But deep inside he knew she was right. He waved his hand. "Fine, talk to the savage, but remember, he is beneath you." Lyra nodded and stepped toward the communication chamber. Her heart pounded as the blue light of the holoprojector filled the air. The signal connected instantly and the human appeared. He stood tall, wearing dark combat armor scratched from countless battles, his face calm, his eyes sharp like twin blades. There was no arrogance, no fear, only purpose. "I am Princess Lyra of the Zerath Empire," she said, her voice steady though her hands shook. The man studied her for a moment, his tone even. "Darius Cole, captain of the Terran Vanguard." Lyra tried to sound confident. "You have entered Imperial space. You have disabled our fleets. What is it you want?" He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Justice." The word hit her like thunder. "Justice?" she repeated. "For what?" "For every human world you burned," he said quietly. "For every child your empire enslaved. For every colony you erased from history." Lyra's lips parted. "That was centuries ago." "Not for us," Darius said. "We remember every scream, every fire, every betrayal." His words were heavy, filled with truth and pain. Lyra had studied countless wars, but never had she seen such calm fury. "You could have attacked us," she said. "You could have destroyed the planet, why didn't you?" He stepped closer to the hologram, his gaze piercing through her. "Because I want you to understand what you built on the bones of others." Lyra looked away, guilt crawling through her chest though she didn't know why. She had never seen humans, never fought them, never even believed they existed, yet now, one human had humbled an empire. "Your empire took everything from us," Darius continued. "But we are not here for revenge. We are here to make sure it never happens again," Lyra whispered. "You think you can stop an empire alone?" A faint smile touched his lips. "Do I look alone?" Behind him, lights flickered across the dark void. For a second, she thought she saw more ships, huge silhouettes waiting in the dark. Before she could speak, an alarm sounded across the chamber. Commander Varen rushed in. "Your Highness, our outer defense grid is powering up without command input." Lyra turned sharply. "Who ordered that?" Varen's voice shook. "The generals, Princess. They're preparing to ambush the human." Lyra's heart sank. "No, stop them." But it was too late. The massive cannons on the planet's surface came alive, beams of red plasma rising toward the sky. The Emperor's voice thundered through the hall. "Fire everything!" Outside, the heavens lit up. Thousands of plasma bolts raced toward the black warship. The ground shook, the sea boiled. Lyra gasped as the human ship shimmered. Blue light expanded from its hull, wrapping it in a field like a living storm. The energy bolts vanished before touching it, dissolving like snow in sunlight. Darius's voice echoed through every speaker. "Calm and cold, you were warned." Then the Vanguard moved. Faster than thought, it turned its main cannon toward the orbital fleet and released a silent pulse. The entire formation vanished in a flash of white. No debris, no sound, only silence. Lyra fell back. Her heart racing, the council screamed. The Emperor's fury turned into fear. The human spoke again. We offered peace once. And you answered with fire, he said. We do not beg twice. The transmission ended. Lyra sat alone in the dark room. Her empire had never been challenged like this. Her father's pride had led them to ruin, and yet she couldn't hate the human. There was something in his eyes, a pain deeper than vengeance, a sadness older than time. She opened the archives, searching the oldest records, and there, hidden behind sealed files, she found it. Images of humans standing beside Zirath commanders, fighting as allies, old treaties, ancient betrayal. Her people had destroyed theirs out of greed and fear. Lyra closed the files, whispering to herself, We started this war long ago. Outside, lightning flashed across the alien sky. The Vanguard hovered above the palace like a silent god. Lyra looked up, her voice trembling but full of resolve. If we must face judgment, she said, then I will speak the truth. The part ends as she walks toward the balcony, staring into the endless black where the human ship waited. Her silver eyes reflected the stars, and somewhere within that darkness, Darius watched her too. Two enemies born of old lies, standing on the edge of a new fate. The night sky over Zirath Prime no longer looked beautiful. It felt heavy, watching, filled with the silent judgment of the human ship that refused to leave. For the first time in centuries, the Empire knew fear. Princess Lyra could not sleep. The echoes of Darius Cole's voice kept replaying in her mind. We remember every scream, he had said. The words burned like a wound she could not close. She walked through the ancient halls of the Royal Library. The walls glowed with faint energy from old data crystals. Each one contained centuries of history, or what the Empire allowed people to remember. Show me records of the Terran race, she commanded. The archive AI flickered to life. Access restricted, it replied. By whose authority? She asked sharply. By the Emperor himself, the voice said. Lyra hesitated, then whispered. Override. Royal Code Lyra 12. The light changed from blue to red and the old data files began to open. The screen filled with faces, human faces, some smiling, some armored, some lying broken on burning worlds. Lyra's breath caught. The records told of a time when humans and Zirath once fought side by side. Together against other galactic powers, humanity had been small, fragile, but brave beyond measure. The Zirath admired their will, then feared it. There it was, the truth, the betrayal. The Empire had turned on humanity, afraid of their growing unity and strength. They wiped out their colonies, bombarded Earth itself, erased their name from history. Lyra covered her mouth, trembling. Her people had buried this truth under centuries of lies. Outside, the wind howled, and thunder rolled through the night sky. She called for Commander Varine when he entered. His eyes showed confusion and guilt. You already know, don't you? She said quietly. Varine looked away. Some of us do, Princess. We were taught to forget. But the truth always finds cracks to crawl through. Why didn't anyone speak? She asked. Because truth is treason here, he whispered. Your father burned those who questioned the past. Lyra turned toward the window, her heart heavy. Then maybe it's time someone breaks that silence. Varine stared at her. Shocked. You can't mean, Princess, the Emperor will kill you if you defy him. She met his eyes. He already killed what we once were, far above the planet. On the Vanguard, Darius stood on the bridge, watching the alien world glow beneath him. His officers moved quietly, reading signals and scanning the surface. One of them, Lieutenant Rhea, approached. Captain. Transmission intercepted from the capital. The princess is searching forbidden data. Darius frowned. She's curious. Rhea looked uneasy. Curiosity got our world burned once. Sir? He said nothing for a moment, then spoke softly. Not this time. He remembered his own home, his mother holding him as the sky burned red. His father's last words before the bombs fell. Humanity had crawled back from extinction, rebuilt in the dark and swore never again to kneel. Now, seeing the princess defy her empire stirred something in him, a small flicker of hope that not all aliens were monsters. Open a private channel, Darius ordered, encrypted back in the palace. Lyra was still reading the forbidden files when the hollow screen flickered. She jumped as the human's face appeared again. Captain Darius, she whispered. How did you... You broke your empire's silence, he said. That deserves my attention. Lyra looked at him with anger and pain. My people lied to us all. I see now what they did to yours. We were the monsters, Darius nodded slowly. The universe doesn't care who calls themselves gods. It only remembers who suffered. She stepped closer to the hologram, her voice trembling. Then tell me, Captain, what do you want from us now? Truth first, he said. Justice next. Lyra clenched her fist. And peace? He paused. That depends on your father. Before she could answer, alarms echoed through the palace again. Red lights flashed across the city. Varen's voice came over the comm. Princess, the Emperor has learned of your access. His guards are on their way to arrest you, Lyra gasped. He knows. Darius's tone hardened. They'll kill you to protect the lie. She looked up at him, desperation and courage in her eyes. Then I'll need your help. He hesitated. If I intervene, it's war. She shook her head. It already is. The connection cut off as armored guards stormed through the palace corridors. The sound of heavy boots echoed closer. Lyra turned to Varen. Get me to the transport bay. They ran through the glowing halls as sirens wailed. Energy bolts struck the walls, guards shouting her name. Stop her! The princess has betrayed the throne. Lyra's heart pounded. She had never fired a weapon in her life. But tonight she aimed and fought back. When they reached the landing deck, the view took her breath away. Above the storm clouds, the human warship waited. Its hull glimmering like a second moon, she boarded a small shuttle and whispered, Take me to him. Varen hesitated. Princess, if you go. There's no return, she smiled sadly. I'm not going back. The engines roared. Lifting the shuttle into the sky, lightning flashed around it, and the palace below shrank into darkness. Inside the Vanguard, Darius watched the small craft rise toward him. His officers looked shocked. Captain, it's an Imperial shuttle. He raised his hand. Let it dock. The hangar doors opened, and as the shuttle landed, the air was thick with tension. The ramp lowered and Lyra stepped out, soaked from the rain, her silver eyes glowing in the dim light. Darius met her gaze. She said quietly, I came to end this war. He looked at her for a long moment, then turned toward the stars. Then let's start with the truth. The air inside the human ship felt colder than space itself. The walls hummed softly with power, each panel alive with faint blue light. Princess Lyra stood near the command bridge, her silver gown torn and wet from the storm. Around her, armored humans moved with discipline and quiet focus. They looked at her with suspicion, some with hatred, yet none dared to speak. Only their captain's presence kept them calm. Darius Cole stepped forward, his face lit by the soft glow of the star map. You should not be here, he said, his tone firm but not cruel. Lyra raised her chin. You wanted truth, Captain, you'll have it. My father hides something under the capital. A weapon beyond imagination. Darius's eyes narrowed. Explain, she touched the console, projecting an image of a vast machine buried deep beneath the city. It's called the Eclipse Core, built from stolen human tech. It can draw energy from a planet's heart, and when released, it burns everything within light years. The bridge fell silent. One of the crew whispered, They built a planet killer. Darius's voice was low. So the Emperor plans to destroy his own world before surrendering. Lyra nodded. He would rather rule ashes than bow to you. Darius turned to his officers. Prepare strike teams, we end this tonight. Lyra grabbed his arm. No, Captain, if you attack from orbit, the core will trigger automatically. It must be shut down from inside. His jaw tightened. Then you're saying we go down there? Yes, she said softly. Together. Hours later, the storm over Zerath Prime had grown violent. Lightning danced across the sky as the Vanguard descended through the clouds. Hiding its energy signature inside the dropship bay, human soldiers checked weapons and armor. Lyra stood among them unarmed. The soldiers glanced at her uneasily. Darius approached, handing her a small device. Translator and shield generator. It won't save you from everything, but it'll keep you alive. She looked up. Why help me? He answered without looking at her. Because I still believe mercy isn't weakness. The dropship doors closed. Engines roared and the craft plunged through the storm. From above, the capital looked like a dying jewel, fires burning where lightning struck. The once perfect city now looked afraid. As they landed near the energy vaults, alarms screamed across the Empire. The Emperor already knew. His voice thundered through the comm network. My daughter has betrayed her blood. Humanity will die again. Lyra froze for a second, pain flashing in her eyes. Darius placed a hand on her shoulder. Focus, princess. The galaxy doesn't need another tyrant speech. They moved through metallic corridors glowing red. The deeper they went, the stronger the heat became. The sound of the core pulsed like a heartbeat beneath their feet. At the final gate, dozens of Zerath guards blocked their way. Their armor gleamed, their eyes cold. Lyra stepped forward before Darius could fire. "Stand down, you fight for a lie," she shouted. "The humans are not our enemy. Our emperor is." For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then one guard lowered his weapon, then another. But others shouted and opened fire. Blasts filled the tunnel, sparks rained like fireflies. Darius's soldiers moved fast, their rifles humming. The smell of burning metal and plasma filled the air. Lyra ducked behind a console, heart racing. She had never seen war this close. Humans fought like storms, silent and precise. When the last guard fell, Darius walked to the control platform. "This is it," he said, looking at the glowing chamber ahead. The Eclipse Core. The machine was massive, a sphere of light and darkness, pulsing with impossible energy. Symbols. Half human, half Zerath glowed across its surface. Lyra stared, realizing her empire had stolen even its design. "We took this from you," she whispered, "from your ancestors." Darius nodded. "Then let's finish what they couldn't." She approached the console, fingers trembling. "If I input the wrong code, it'll explode." He stood beside her. "Then don't miss." She entered the override sequence, each key glowing under her hand. The room shook, warning lights flashing. The Emperor's voice echoed through hidden speakers. "You can't stop destiny, daughter," Lyra shouted back. "Destiny doesn't belong to tyrants." The screen turned red. "Core destabilizing," Darius yelled. "Move!" He pulled her away as the sphere began to collapse inward. Energy swirled, a miniature sun forming inside. He slammed his comm. "Vanguard, this is Cole. Fire extraction beam on our mark." But the Emperor appeared on a holographic screen, towering, his eyes burning with madness. "You think you can win, human? Your world was ashes once, I will burn it again." Darius raised his weapon, firing straight through the projection. "Not this time." He grabbed Lyra and ran as the chamber exploded behind them, waves of light chasing them through the tunnels. The extraction beam cut through the ceiling, pulling them upward into the storm. The blast consumed the palace below. The Eclipse Core imploded, folding space inward. From orbit, the Vanguard shielded the blast with its energy field. The light spread across the horizon, and then faded, leaving silence. Lyra stood on the bridge again, watching the ruins of her home below. Her voice broke. "He's gone. My father, my world." Darius looked at her. "Maybe now something new can rise." She turned to him. "And what of you, Captain? Will you leave us?" He looked out the window, the stars reflecting in his eyes. Humanity doesn't leave the broken behind anymore. Outside, the first rays of dawn touched the planet's clouds, painting them gold. The world of Zerath Prime burned quietly under the new sunrise. The sky was filled with drifting ash and glowing clouds. The once golden spires of the capital were gone, replaced by ruins and silence. Inside the human warship Vanguard, Captain Darius Cole stood at the main viewport. His armor was cracked, his face marked with dust and exhaustion. Beside him stood Princess Lyra, her silver eyes dim but steady. Neither spoke for a long time. The only sound was the low hum of the ship's engines, a rhythm like a heartbeat echoing through the silence. At last, Lyra whispered, "It's over." Darius shook his head slowly. "No, Princess. This is only the beginning." She turned to him, confusion and grief mixed in her gaze. "My father is gone, my empire is ashes. What else could there be?" He looked out at the glowing horizon. Justice never ends with victory, it begins there. Below them, rescue drones moved across the ruins, pulling survivors from the wreckage. Human medics and machines worked beside the alien wounded. The old hatred that had shaped galaxies was gone, replaced by something fragile and uncertain. Lyra watched the scene unfold, her hands trembling. "We destroyed your world once," she said softly. "Now you save ours." Darius's voice was quiet. "Because we learned what vengeance costs, it leaves nothing alive. Not even the one who wins." She looked down. "I thought humanity would come for revenge." He gave a faint smile. "We came to make sure no one else feels what we felt. That is our revenge." Hours passed as the human fleet began to arrive. One by one, massive ships slipped from hyperspace. their hulls shining with the light of distant suns. The stars themselves seemed to bow before their presence. The Zerath survivors stared at the sky in disbelief. For the first time they saw a human armada not as conquerors, but as saviors. On the bridge, Lieutenant Rhea turned to Darius. "Sir, the fleet is ready. Orders?" Darius took a deep breath. "Begin aid protocol. No retaliation strikes. We rebuild what we destroy." Rhea hesitated. "Even after what they did to us?" He looked at her, his eyes calm. "Especially after what they did to us." The command was sent, and the human fleet began releasing thousands of relief drones. Food, medicine, water, shelter. Things the Zerath had once denied others. Lyra stepped closer to the window, watching the dark sky fill with light. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "like a second dawn." Darius nodded. "That's what we call it, the Dawn Initiative." Suddenly, the comm system flickered. A voice from the lower decks broke the quiet. "Captain, we found something in the ruins. It's alive." Darius frowned. "Who?" A pause, then the reply came. "The Emperor, sir." Lyra froze. Her breath caught. Darius turned to her. "You should stay here." She shook her head. "No. This ends with me." They descended together into the shattered remains of the palace. The corridors were filled with dust and sparks. The walls cracked and glowing with the last embers of the Eclipse core. In the center of the throne hall lay the Emperor, broken and burned. His armor melted to his body, yet his eyes still glowed with defiance. Lyra stepped closer, her voice shaking. "Father," he turned his head slowly, his breathing ragged. "You betrayed your blood." She knelt beside him. "You betrayed everything." The Emperor tried to lift his hand. "The Zerath were gods once," he rasped. "We ruled the stars." Darius stood behind her. Silent and watchful, Lyra's voice cracked. "You ruled by fear, not by strength. Humanity showed me what strength truly is." The Emperor's gaze shifted to Darius. "You think you've won, human?" He hissed. "You'll become just like us." Darius stepped forward. "Maybe, but at least we'll remember what we lost." The old ruler's last breath left his body, and the hall grew silent again. Lyra lowered her head, whispering a prayer in her language. The last Emperor of the Zerath was gone. When they returned to the bridge, the human fleet had finished securing the planet. Darius looked across the endless sea of stars. "It's time," he said. Lyra turned to him. "Time for what?" He faced her, his expression softer now. "Time to give your people a choice, to lead them into something better." She hesitated. "You want me to rule?" "Not rule," he said. "Guide, teach them what you've learned. That power without mercy is just another kind of death." Lyra nodded slowly, the weight of destiny settling on her shoulders. "And what of you, Captain?" He looked out at the fleet. "Humanity will watch the stars again, not as conquerors, but as guardians." She smiled faintly. "You sound like a hero." He shook his head. "No, I'm just a soldier who remembered what it means to be human." Outside, the storm cleared completely. The sun rose fully above the horizon. Its light reflected off the countless human ships, turning the sky into gold and silver. Lyra whispered. "One human changed everything." Darius turned to her one last time. "No, Princess, humanity did." The Vanguard rose higher, joining the fleet as the new dawn spread across the planet. For the first time in centuries, hope filled the air. The Empire had fallen, but something greater had begun. And as the stars burned brighter, the voice of humanity echoed across the galaxies once more. "The age of silence is over. Humanity stands again."